Good morning, Year 3. Today's maths lesson is Unit 12, Angles of Properties and Shapes, and we are on Lesson 6, looking at parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's get started with our Discover problem. So this problem says, Isla folds her paper into a concertina. What will it look like when she unfolds it? Max had folded his concertina in half. What will it look like when he opens it? A concertina is where you take a piece of paper and fold the edge one way and then fold it the other way. You can make fans doing this. I bet you've done that before, maybe when you were younger. So have a think, what will Isla's paper look like when she unfolds it? And what will Max's paper look like when he unfolds it? You could always have a go at this by making a concertina yourself at home. Pause the video now and then come back when you're ready for some answers. Okay, so the top piece of paper there is Isla's paper. She has folded it one way and then the other way, then back again, and she's got 4 sections there. You can see that there are lines running down the paper where she's folded it. These lines are parallel because they all run in exactly the same direction and they won't cross. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Underneath, this is Max's paper here. He's got the same parallel lines as Isla, but he's also got another line here down the middle where he folded his concertina in half. So he has got parallel lines and some perpendicular lines. Let's have a look at those kinds of lines now. So here we go. Parallel lines when 2 or more straight lines run next to each other in exactly the same direction. No matter how far they will go, they will never get any closer or further away from one another. So here's one set of parallel lines here. The 2 lines are pointing in exactly the same direction. Even if I carried on these lines for ages, they would never cross over. The same with these lines here. Parallel lines can go in any direction as long as they are all in the same direction. Perpendicular lines are when 2 join one another at a right angle. So this line here, the vertical line, is perpendicular to the horizontal line. Just like parallel lines, perpendicular lines can happen in any direction. So even though these 2 lines here, they're not vertical or horizontal, but they are still perpendicular because this is still a right angle in between them here. Okay, so now we've talked about what parallel and perpendicular lines are, have a go at finding some parallel and perpendicular lines in this picture. There are reminders in the speech bubbles there to help you. There are loads of examples in this picture, so go ahead and find a few and then come back to the video and I'll point them out with you. Okay, so I found some parallel lines here. You could also have some horizontal parallel lines, as shown by the green lines there, but there are loads of others. And remember, I said you could have 2 or more parallel lines, so you could add in a 3rd or a 4th in there. Perpendicular lines are at right angles to each other. So an example of a perpendicular pair of lines would be this top green line here and this orange line here. You could also have this green line and this orange line here. They join each other at right angles. I'm not entirely sure how many there are in this picture because there are loads. So well done if you found a few pairs of parallel or perpendicular lines. For part 2, what I would like you to do is create your own parallel lines. You can do this by drawing down either side of a ruler. However, there's loads of other ways you could do this. Especially if you've got your squared maths book with you at home, have a practice at using the squares to help you draw parallel lines. If you want to challenge, you can draw some perpendicular lines too, and the squares in your maths book will really help you. I have had a go myself at drawing a couple. So there's one line, and here's another. These 2 are not parallel. They don't cross over yet, and they don't cross over at a right angle. However, if I carried those lines on, they would eventually bump into each other. So these two lines are not parallel because they will crash into each other. Some of you will be ready to go into your green Power Maths books now. Today we are working on page 86 in those books. You'll be identifying lots of parallel and perpendicular lines. If you get stuck, go back in the video to that part where I explain the difference between parallel and perpendicular, and that should help you with some of the questions. However, you can always email your teacher if you are not sure or if you needed some help with your work. Those of you who would like a bit of a challenge today, let's have a go with these challenge questions now. Okay, so question 3, it says, look at these pairs of lines. Emma says that they are all parallel because they do not cross over. Explain whether you agree with her or not. Now, because this is an explain question, we need to write our answer as a full sentence. So pause the video and have a go. Think back at the examples that we've already looked at and if that will help you identify which are parallel and which are not. Part A, these two lines are parallel. They run in exactly the same direction and they are never going to bump into each other. The same for B, these ones are just horizontal this time and one is slightly shorter than the other. But even if you made those two lines longer, they wouldn't crash into one another. C, these lines are not parallel. Like the example I gave on the previous slide, they might not cross over yet, but they will do very soon. You can see that this line is heading straight for the other one. So they are not parallel. They go in different directions. And for D, these lines are in fact perpendicular to one another. They haven't met each other at a right angle yet, but they will do if this line is extended a little further. So Emma is not correct because C and D are not parallel lines. They will cross over at some point. Part B, how could you draw lines parallel to each of these? Now the squared paper is there to help you. As well as just drawing the lines, it's asking you how. So you need to explain how you did it. Pause the video and have a go at that now. If you've got squared paper at home, that can help you. And then come back to the video when you'd like to go through the answers with me. Okay, so I found a line parallel to this first one by simply moving it one square to the left. And that's the same for each of the points down. I just move the whole thing one square to the left, and then I know it will be parallel. For the next one here, I also moved it one square to the left. I moved the bottom one square to the left and exactly the same to the top. This means that they will run parallel to one another and not bump in. Finally, for this one, I moved it up a square. So can you see I started one square higher and I also finished one square higher. These two lines are parallel. Well done if you got those correct. It is time to go into your green maths books now. You are on page 86 today. Good luck with your questions, and if you do have any problems or anything you need to ask, that's absolutely fine. Please just email your teacher. See you tomorrow. Bye.